Yes, yes. So the reason for having this recording is to provide the background and the information for our dual group, the people in our groups that are really struggling with mental and spiritual health issues. And let me first say that I am a pastor. I am a Catholic pastor, and I frequently encounter these questions related to spiritual health, sometimes even mental health, um, with people I work with, parishioners, and this some of these questions are related to the desire to have a house blessing. So whenever people are in their house, and they can have several reasons why they want to have a house blessing. One of the reasons is that people follow the tradition, the Catholic tradition, that when you have a house, when you buy a house, you ask the priest or the pastor to come and bless the house. And that is an obvious reason. But sometimes there are deeper issues, there are deeper layers of motivation that somebody can request for a blessing of the house. And then that there's where the spiritual component comes in. I can remember that once a man requested to have a house blessing, and the reason behind that, you only come you only get to know the reason when you engage in a conversation with the person who requests that, and visit them in their own environment, and getting their confidence, and then they will confide what the reason is. So what was this case? The case was that the man, his wife had died, and after she passed away, about a few months after that, he started realizing that um, the presence of his wife was still in the house, and it kind of disturbed him, and he became very anxious about that. And he said, well, you see, I love my wife, I will always love her, but the mere fact that I sense her presence, sometimes I'm in the house and I can smell her scent, for no reason. At night, I'm hearing her voice, she's calling me. So he felt that even though she had passed away, her presence was still very much felt, was felt very much. So he became very anxious, and he wanted to have a house blessing, to bless the house, and also to make sure that his wife would be at ease, and take her rest, and remain in her new place of where she was where she is staying, a spirit. So we had a conversation. I had a conversation with the husband, and I told him, I explained to him, well, these are valid reasons, and ultimately, as Christians, we believe that God wants to surround us with his mercy and with his grace, and that we can invoke his grace and his mercy in all circumstances of life, even in this particular circumstances. And so I continued performing a house blessing, using prayers and using incense and using holy water. I went through all these places in the house, the rooms, inciting prayers for protection and for comfort, and for experiencing God's grace and God's spirit as the only spirit to be experienced in that house, and that everything else would cease. So I went on performing that ritual, and doing it in a very Christian manner, using scriptural readings, Bible readings, as a way to accompany the rituals, and using also the candle, burning candle, and going with the light to all these places in the house, and also um, um, praying, asking God for granting, really granting eternal rest to his wife. And in my prayer also, um, 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 I also uh, directed myself to his wife and talked to his wife, looking at the picture, talking to her, and say, "It is good. You can have your rest. There's nobody to disturb you. You can have your rest. Go in peace, um, and your family is fine. You don't have to worry about your family. Go in peace, and everything is fine. You don't have to worry, and we take care of your family, and God is there also to protect your family." So doing that really gave this man a sense of being heard and being acknowledged, and it was very spiritual lift. It really raised his spirit. He was very enthusiastic. He was very happy that that could be done. And so after some time, he mentioned that he really felt less anxious and really felt comfortable in his house, and he was very happy that we had that blessing. So that is just one component of where people experiencing spiritual distress, and that can be all kind of reasons, and it shows that prayer and especially people who are open to prayer, it could be very helpful for them to experience some ease in their distress and to experience wholeness of life again. So this is one of the example I can give as a pastor. And I know that a lot of people from African descent or even Indonesian descent are very keen, very open towards the spirit world, which is for Westerners very difficult to grasp because of the whole influence of enlightenment. It's very difficult to grasp. But for people coming from people from African descent, from Africa, from Asia, they are very much in tune with the spirit world. Um, and that is a it's not something to be dismissed. It's also occurring in the Bible. The Bible also the mere fact that we believe in the Holy Spirit says that there is something like a spirit world, um, distinct from the material world. And in that spirit world, the spiritual dimension is very prevalent, and it's something that you cannot dismiss. You really have to take it seriously. So when people have issues related to spiritual health, and or related to the spirit world, then I think you need professionals who take it seriously and um, who can deal with it in an effective way.
Thank you. I want to come in here. The issue of this man approaching you for what he is experiencing with the spirit of his dead wife shows that he is being disturbed by the presence of somebody who is dead, and that this wife is not having her peace and is calling him. Then he understood what it means, and he knows he's not crazy. I mean, he's disturbed psychologically, mentally, spiritually, and he did not go to psychiatric, he did not go to psychologist. He comes to you. I want us to look more into that, though you said something about it. So he came to you knowing that you will understand him and you can do something that is different than what the psychologist and psychiatrist can do, or even the doctor. or specialist. So he knows where to come to for help. Is this person, okay, I think you said it almost, is from the church community where you serve?
Yeah.
Because he's from there, he knows that the church community, you as a pastor, you have something you can do in this kind of situation. There are millions of people who does not belong to church community or religious communities. They're in the society, or who does not know the work of a pastor in this case. I'm sure those people don't know where to go. They may go to the psychologist for this, and then they'll be diagnosed to something that will lead to psychiatrists who will apply medicine to them. While I can understand you may not know where I'm going, but while the problem is not a mental issue, is not psychosomatic issue, but is another reality, a spiritual reality, a metaphysical reality, a dead person present in her room or in her house, in the house of the husband, and it needs something else to solve that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that is therefore the ritual you acted with. And you are trained with this ritual in your education and your pastoral formation, and you applied it, and it worked for him.
Mm-hmm.
You know how to talk to this spirit to help her find her way to her spiritual world and to have her rest and leave the accommodation that is meant for the living. And she find her way to her world.
Mm-hmm.
And then the living have his peace.
Mm-hmm.
And this dead lady also have her peace.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of knowledge is not really accessible to everybody,
No.
especially in the society.
Mm-hmm.
You want to say something?
I want to say something, yes, because it is not knowledge that you gain from university as such. It's also cultural knowledge, and it's also the richness of my own culture, because I grew up in Afro-Surinamese culture, uh, which has been shaped and influenced by African heritage. So in my Afro-Surinamese culture, the spirit world has always been prevalent, and I grew up encountering this spirit world. I have seen through rituals how people deal with that. So that is cultural heritage. That is richness of the culture, and my Western education alone would have never prepared me enough to do what I did. A great part of it is indebted to my own cultural heritage, my own cultural background, Afro-Surinamese background. So you see where these two things can help if you kind of harmonize them in a harmonious way, bring them together, because doing the prayers and doing the rituals is also something that you are trained to do as a pastor, but then also uh, um, um, the cultural component uh, fits into that perfectly, and making use of these two sources the pastoral training and the cultural heritage, bringing them together in service of what we call ministry. So you could say it's a type of um, intercultural ministry, you could say.
Thank you for explaining this. It comes down to what our organization is actually working on, the consciousness of cultural sensitive care.
Mhm.
So this, I think what you said also explain more. This person did not approach you only because you're a pastor, but because you have a background to understand his case, because you could have sent him to psychiatrists as a pastor, which some pastors does, said, well, I have gone through DSM-5. This is really, you have to go to talk to a psychologist. But this man knows you will understand him, and you did understand him from the cultural background, and you understand also how to deal with it because you are brought up with rituals from cultural backgrounds. Thank you for explaining that. Well, you said this is one case. Maybe the other examples you can, I mean, you have encountered for this particular issue of people from African roots seeking this kind of help, or an approach that is not really the Western approach for psychological or mental issues. Because if we zoom, sorry, let me come more. If we zoom more into this particular example you mentioned, the man, if he cannot have peace in his house, he cannot sleep, he become worried, anxiety follows, even fear may come in. Having this spirit disturbing him, or the presence of this spirit in the day and the night, he may got freaked off, and he may at a time losing much night rest or sleep. It will disturb his brain, his mind, and his health. So it has consequences, maybe short or in a long term. And well, those are the examples how this problem can start. And then he cannot function anymore very well in the society, and then he may end up causing more damage to himself or to his family or people around him. But yeah, he approached you, and you restored the peace in his house, and he can be able to continue his life. So that's a good example. And maybe there are more issues you encounter.
Yeah, you see, well, I just very often through my ministry, sometimes people don't openly talk about their connection with a particular spirit world, but the things they say kind of hint to that. And things that we really take for granted, obvious, so like for example, like the desire to have your child baptized, baptism. So the normal way in our ministry is to have three preparatory events leading up to the baptism, and then the first one is just to get behind the motivation why somebody wants the child to be baptized. and talk, and very, very often what I get back from particularly people from African descent is the desire for protection. They deem a child not baptized, an unbaptized child, as being at the disposal of all kind of spiritual forces.
Yeah.
So the primary reason for wanting to baptize a child is to protect the child spiritually. So
It's not,
we can I can discuss all kind of catechetical issues and biblical issues, but it's just like what they say in Dutch. It's like a tongue upon varken. It doesn't make any
yeah.
sense. The primary reason is to protect the child, reckoning with the spiritual forces that are around, and so people say, well, I want to baptize my child because of protection. And when you continue talking, then you will hear motives like out of gratitude, because we are happy that the child is there, was born, and we want to give the child to God. But if you listen carefully, the primary motive is protection, protection from spiritual forces.
And the theological reason for baptism is admission into the community of Christ.
Those reasons are
So this
also
is not
there, but
their main purpose. Continue. It's interesting.
yeah, so we reckon that, at least I reckon that, I and I think my colleagues as well, we reckon that, we recognize that this is a very important motive for people to baptize their children, that a child be protected against spiritual forces, experience God's protection as it grows up and continue to life through life.
Is it possible to go more deep into this, their reason for spiritual forces? Is it because they recognize the spiritual forces and the power because of their culture and their backgrounds? Or is it because I don't know what to bring in this, I'm thinking many things like reincarnation of the family members? I mean, what kind of fear do they have to try to protect this baby from the spiritual forces? Maybe.
You see, I think we have to understand that for many people, many people do not make clear-cut distinctions in their lives between Christianity,
Oh yeah,
as the way it was imbibed or it was taught, and their cultural background. So these things kind of, they come together, and people don't have any sense of that they are separated. So they are very much capable to harmonize their cultural background with Christianity. In fact, their understanding of Christianity is already inculturated, has already taken on their particular culture. So in that form of Christianity, which has been inculturated, which with their cultural background, with cultural patterns, it's very, very obvious to have this as a primary motive. It is not strange. It is not weird. If you would tell them, well, that's not a good motive, they would look at you and say, what do you mean?
yeah.
So for them, it's very obvious. to baptize the child, so that the child can encounter God's protection. Um, uh, and I think it's very good, but we should not make an issue out of it, saying, well, this is not a good motive. It is a primary motive.
Yeah. Can I come in this more now? Where I come from, our culture, it was done to me anyway. When a child is born, if it is a boy, there is a sacrifice made. I mean, like we celebrate the boy by killing a cock. So a male fowl. And if it is a girl, we celebrate it in a feasting of celebration. We have to have certain kind of food like yam, and then this fowl. We cook it, everybody eat and be happy, and we have certain songs we sing. If it is a girl, then you kill a hen, female fowl. And this is a kind of saying, welcome to this newborn baby. And it's also at the same time a ritual of protection. But it's also related to the thanking the spiritual world and asking for protection for this newborn baby in the spiritual realm. Maybe in our culture then, if we bring a child to a church for baptism, this still remain in the background, because bringing the child for baptism in the church, you bring also that fowl with you and offer it to the priest or to the pastor who take it then. So it's the same thing, because even Christianity is adopted this way without any discussion, without any thought, without any further anything. You bring the yam and the fowl to the pastor.
Yeah, it really reminds me, if I may, it really reminds. I think these are very strong anthropological antecedents, which are also, I think it's not strange. I think it's very embedded in within Christianity itself, or within local cultures, even in Western cultures. I remember when I did my sabbatical a few years ago, I stayed in the Redemptorist monastery in Witten. And there I realized that for the people there, in the Dutch people in Limburg, in that area, it's very normal for them, when the child do their first communion, to bring a smoked sausage, rookworst, to the presbytery. So the presbytery kitchen was filled with smoked sausages. And so they will offer that, and they will give that to the priest as a way of thanksgiving. Or so the idea of encountering a ritual, a church ritual, whether it be baptism or first communion, it goes with offering something. And there you see the that the value of it. It's a way of saying thanks, ultimately saying thanks to God, giving back something in return for a blessing that you have received. Yeah, but I think indeed in cities, in places where people have lost touch with cultural heritage, you won't find those things anymore. But I think a lot of people from African descent, no matter if they migrate to the United States or to a Western country, very often they are still very much in tune with their cultural heritage, and are very open to rituals that are in connection to the spirit world.
Thank you. I want to welcome Raf. And then I would like to share something then. Raf, you can always stop us and ask your question or give your instruction. You can remove everything you want to remove.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. If you want, you can also have a introduction with Don. Yeah. So,
Okay, thank you very much. I will.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Duncan, you see Raf, you see Duncan.
Yeah,
Both of you are
yes.
from the same area.
I think Raphael, my name is Duncan, but from your name, I sense that you are from Curaçao.
Yeah, you also.
No, I'm not. I'm from Suriname.
Okay.
Same family, different place.
Yes. Pero mi po papiamento un tiki.
Bom. Abi bom. No, agora que mais bem me tá comendo.
Welcome.
So thank you. Duncan, I want to share the same kind of experience, but then in the city. As a pastor, actually, is also where, and when I was working this, where I met Raphael. I was working as a city pastor in one of the biggest city of Netherlands, and there was a kind of house where people who are sick, mentally sick, psychologically sick, physically very sick, where they are living and where they are cared for by big organizations that hire us for spiritual care for them. So I have some colleagues that are also not from another culture, but from Dutch culture, naturally. Also not Catholic backgrounds as a pastor. So there was one of this house, and the people will be shouting and running away, shouting. You can't mistake it that they are seeing something. So this happened so often and so disturbing that the staff decided to inform us and ask for advice. They happened to talk with my colleague about it, and my colleague said, well, she will talk to me. And then she did. Yeah, sorry, Matthew is calling. Let me pick up, see if she wants to join. Matthew, good evening. We are on Zoom now, Duncan and me.
Oh, you are on Zoom?
Yeah,
Okay.
You got the link if you want. We're talking about the spiritual issue, eh?
Okay.
The psychological issue for that people from sub-Sahara Africa encounter, you know? The first training we had.
Okay, I will come in, but I will be on mute, yeah?
Okay, it's good. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, sorry. She got, actually 4 of us got the link except Madeline that is not yet. So look at, she's there. She's on mute. So let me continue. The professional editor can know what to do with this. I was told about it. I was informed whether we have solution for that because of also call it the Catholic training on exorcism and rituals when you are getting your pastoral training. So I went and we sat with the staff and they told us, and those people came, about 6 of them, they are migrants with sub-Sahara background and Asia background. I remember one come from China. So we discussed it, and I started the prayer with 2. But then he becomes so afraid that he couldn't stand in his room. And then I decided to call the exorcist of the diocese. And the exorcist came, there are 2, and we discussed about it. And they started their work of exorcism. And just bringing this in because these people know to approach a pastor, and they have their psychologists there, they have their psychiatrists working for these people, but they know, the staff know that this case is really out of what psychologists and psychiatrists can do. So they approach us. And the exorcists, there too, they came and they did their first exorcism in the whole place and in the rooms. The second one also happened. They came for the second one because they said they will keep on coming until the case is over. When they did the second one, this man who was on wheelchair for years could walk. He started walking. He was healed. And actually peace came back in the whole building because there are many floors where they are living. Then the exorcist said, when this thing come back again, call us. But in between the the staff changed their minds. I don't know what happened there. So when the thing came back again, they were not called. And some of these people died very quickly. Is one of the cases I had. But what I noticed in this example is the migrants, the staff who also have migrant backgrounds, and these migrants knew what they want. I mean, that this is not something for the psychologists, it's not for the psychiatrists. They try to use salt to mop the floor. If we go there, the floor is always wet, and they mop it with salt, and they tried a lot of things as we are told, but it was not really happening until the exorcist came. So yeah, you mentioned about blessing of the house. This is also what I experienced in a big community where sick people were living.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it's so I am not a priest. I am a pastoral worker, so I am not entitled to perform simple exorcisms. But sometimes I know it is very difficult to differentiate and to distinguish mental disorder from spiritual disorders. And there's a thin line, and I know that sometimes some forms of mental disorders really look like being possessed in their forms. So I know it's for the Catholic Church is a very grave issue, and only a trained exorcist can, and that's why I can understand that you said 2 of them went, because they never go like one person. So it really, and as I have experienced that somebody from the Afro-Surinamese community for a long time have really called upon me to do something, because she was very convinced that her daughter was possessed. I was not in a position to do anything, because at the same time the daughter was also being diagnosed with schizophrenia. But there was a whole issue. It had a whole a long story actually, with things within the family, and it went on for years, for many years. So the first time I was approached, I requested the priest from Nigeria whether he would be able to do something. He declined. I said perhaps you could bless some water, and I can take the water to her, and he declined. He didn't want it to engage. um, so that was the first time, and then this went on for years. The priest from Nigeria I was close to, he went back to first. Well, he went somewhere else before. He's now in Nigeria again, but first he went to some other place, some other country, and then later back to Nigeria. But throughout the years, I was the mother of the child kept calling me and telling me about what was happening. And in that time, I was not in an I was between my two ministries, because I served my first ministerial period in Amsterdam, and then went on doing other studies, doing other things, and then came back to ministry in where I am now. So that's why I was not in a position to do anything. I didn't have an official function in the church. I wasn't in that position. That's why I had to request this priest from Nigeria to do something. I couldn't do anything. But so it went on for quite some times, and every time she would call and she would say what happened. The girl went, she freaked out. There were a lot of problems. But there you see how these things intermingle. Spiritual and mental disorders can sometimes intermingle, and that becomes very difficult to address, how to distinguish those two things, and how to what to do exactly. But I think it's important, if I may, I think it's important that when people especially people from African descent, have these issues, to take both serious, both the spiritual component and the mental, to take those things very serious, not to dismiss the one for the other, not to say, well, this is a mental thing or this is only spiritual. You have to take it. You have to take both serious.
Yeah. Thanks. I agree with you. It's true. You mentioned something. You mentioned actually position and the diagnosis of schizophrenia. Now, what African calls positions, spiritual positions, or demonic positions, is what the West actually call trauma, and some other terminologies or diagnosis or disorder they use. And that is where it sometimes conflict. So the big challenge for those who are professionals, cultural sensitive professionals, for the migrants, African migrants, is to try to know just what you said, know the difference between both, where the differentiation comes. Also, there is a process for that. But the challenge is also, how can you convince an Afro person that this is no more spiritual issue, is mental issue? And that is a big one. In a mental issue, when you apply all the ritual processes and it's not working, then you know you are not dealing with a spirit that is disturbing somebody. Then you come down to the psychosomatic area, that this is really something in the mind of somebody. And then in the mental of somebody, and you have another approach. You have a kind of approach of counseling or the other applications the specialist psychologists use to diagnose those things. But the application of the ritual or the special counseling from the migrant culture, that I think is always very important, to apply it first, to try it first before you go further with others. We are with the Western medical area on the mental issue. Because I've seen where those things really go wrong. And there is an approach from the African cultural people for depression issues. There is an approach for stress, like dancing, singing, works very well for them. Even for their trauma, it works very well for them to release it, to be free from it. But go and sit down with somebody and talk does not help matter when it is this kind of stress issue, depression issue, traumatic issue. Doesn't help them much, because actually dancing and singing is also a kind of ritual. It takes place in a kind of context. It's not something you just if you see somebody dancing on the street, you know it's a mad person. In the African culture, dancing, you do it in a certain occasions, and then they will dance, even in the burial. Even it has a context where it takes place, and that context is also the form of ritual that is being done. For the healing. I don't know about the time. Duncan, do you still have time? We can stop here. We can also take another topic. That's why.
Yes, I want to spend a little bit more time with my grandchildren. They are leaving in a few days. So
okay.
But I think one thing that is worth, perhaps not tonight, but on another occasion, I think we should really touch on that. You just mentioned that dancing at burial. I think it's very important. It's something that we have in the Afro-Surinamese culture, institutionalized. There, when somebody dies, the way people grieve, and the way people mourn, and how they processed going into procession to the burial ground. So I think that is a very important topic as well, because we have to acknowledge that if you do not grieve adequately, you do not mourn adequately within that, taking in consideration the cultural component, that death could cause a traumatic experience for that person, which make it difficult for that person to get by, to function normally again in work. So I think that is a very serious thing to look at, that we can discuss. How do we encounter death and death rituals? And it's different from the way people do it in the way it is done in the West. is very different. But people from our cultural background have their specific ways of encountering death. And that again to is embedded within the rituals that are being performed before and after the burial. And these rituals are not fabricated. They make sense, they give meaning, and they help people to process their grief. And that's why look, what is today? Today is Monday.
Yeah, Monday. Yeah.
Wednesday, I'll be performing a ritual with someone from Indonesian descent. The man has been cremated, but his children felt that we could not just bring the ashes in this box and put it at the cemetery cemetery. There need to be some kind of ritual.
Yeah.
So I'll be doing that, and it shows that rituals before and after that are important, especially for people, non-Western people.
Yeah,
it's very important. So that I think is something. If you dismiss that, that can cause traumatic experiences, and it can cause mental disorders as well. You need to help people overcoming their grief.
I really agree with you. Thank you for hinting on this. Somebody approached me. It's not from Africa. He came to me some months ago, and he was sharing this. He said he has been pastoring Africans for 25 years. And the issue of grieving and burial rituals, he asked me if I can help work on it to make it a World Heritage to be protected by UNESCO, Virot F-Food. So we discussed about it, and we just put it down there now because we are working together on something else. But maybe something good to invite him on that day, because this point you make, he's just looking for people who will really bring this to UNESCO and say this must be protected because of also what you just said. The man said he has never seen anywhere in the world where they do like the Africans and the African descendants, that it helps a lot, that the world have to learn from it. So it's really wonderful you mentioned it also this way. So let's put attention on that. Maybe next, I will ask him if he can join next time when we have the dates. And then we go very well into it. Yeah, I agree. So thank you. I think then we can close it off today. And Raphael, do you have a tip for our, or you have question?
Raphael, you need to unmute yourself. Raphael, please unmute yourself.
Oh yeah, I find that the discussion was very fruitful. I myself, I recently lost my mother, and I went home to the burial, and then I had to come back right away because I have to go to work. Normally, we two have a little while, and then it's going to tell you it's going to turn off.
Yeah, that I've been using it, but this today it just freeze. I don't know why it freeze at 34 minutes. It was recording, but it just freeze at 4 minutes.
Okay, but
Uh,
make sure that you secure the SD card
Yeah.
before you do anything.
Okay. I will see. But this what we did is recorded in the Zoom, eh? It's still recording. It's still recording. So you get the Zoom link.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I stop the recording because these things we don't need it anymore. Let me stop the recording.